Packing for Banff? Let me save you from making the same mistakes I see every year, like showing up with only sandals or forgetting that even July mornings can feel pretty chilly. Today I'm walking you through exactly what to pack for your Banff trip so you're ready for anything the mountains throw your way. Welcome to the Banff Travel Podcast. I'm your host, Celine Brewer, a local Canmore resident living the mountain life all year long. When I'm not hiking to a new viewpoint, hitting the local mountain bike trails, or skating on frozen lakes in the winter, I'm helping travelers like you plan unforgettable trips to Banff National Park. As co-founder of Banff Travel Planning and Travel Banff Canada, and a fellow traveler who spent years exploring the world with my husband and our 2 kids, I know what it takes to plan a trip that's smooth, stress-free, and full of those wow moments. One thing I've learned after years of helping people visit the Rockies: knowing how to pack to get the most enjoyment out of your trip shouldn't be an afterthought. Packing for Banff isn't like packing for a beach vacation or a city break. The weather here can be all over the place, especially in the spring or the fall. It's not unusual to feel like you've experienced all 4 seasons in a single day. The key to packing for Banff is really just one word: layers. Even in July, mornings can be down to single digits, and it can still snow in June or September, or really any month for that matter, though July and August are usually pretty rare. You just never know. I remember one summer day when we started hiking in t-shirts and shorts and ended up with gloves and toques on. Now, you'll definitely hear that Canadian in me come out in this podcast. I really struggle to call a warm hat a beanie or really anything but a toque, so you're going to have to bear with me on that one. Now, don't think just because we're locals that we always get it right. There are numerous times where my husband and I look at each other when we've left our rain jackets or a warm layer behind. I mean, you'd think we'd know better, but it still happens. One time we took my parents up to Sunshine Meadows on a warm summer day, and things were all hot and sunny down in the valley, but up top, the windy and higher elevations felt so cold, and of course I had completely forgotten to pack any extra layers for my little ones, and they were in shorts and t-shirts. You know, a 4-year-old looks pretty ridiculous in an adult's hoodie, but it works when it needs to. So let's talk about what people get wrong, because really I have seen it all. Showing up with just shorts and sandals in May, bringing just one hoodie, no rain protection, packing like you're going to Paris. Banff is pretty casual. Or showing up with a beautiful pair of new white sneakers only to find the trails full of mud. Just a tip, Banff is pretty expensive to replace your gear or buy warmer layers once you're here, so it's better to pack right the first time. But do know that if worse comes to worse, you can always buy extra layers in town, or if you forgot your shorts, you can buy some in town. As you're packing, I want you to think of your trip. I want you to imagine sitting waiting for sunrise at Moraine Lake with at least 45 minutes in the dark waiting for the sun come up and to start warming up the day. You'll definitely be wishing you had packed some warmer layers if catching a sunrise or a sunset is in your plans. When I first moved to Alberta, this was also new to me. I grew up in Saskatchewan where it was possible to wear shorts and a t-shirt late into the summer evenings without ever needing a jacket, but that's definitely not the case in the mountains. No matter what time of year you're visiting, here's what should be in your suitcase: a waterproof rain jacket or shell, a warm insulating layer that could be a fleece or a packable down jacket, a toque or gloves, and even a buff. I know it seems silly for a summer trip, but if you plan any sunrise or sunsets or hiking to higher elevations, you'll be glad to have them if you need them. And I do love a good buff because it's such a versatile piece that you can pack that takes up so little space. You can use it for warmth, or you can just use it as a headband on a hot, sweaty day. So it's worth just throwing one in your pack. Comfortable hiking pants or leggings if that's your choice. Good footwear, which I'll get into next. And then, of course, some sunglasses, sunscreen, a hat, a small day pack, and a reusable water bottle of some sort. Things that you don't need to pack and can just get here are bear spray. You can buy it or rent it here, and obviously you'll want to know how to use it. In the spring or the late fall, micro spikes are ideal, but again, those are easy to rent if you don't own them and have no use for them at home. Now, I know me suggesting that you pack a toque and gloves may seem ridiculous, and honestly, there's a very real possibility that you're not going to use them, and I do hope that's the weather you get, but even for myself, I always think I can pack away our winter gear, and inevitably sometime in the summer, I'm digging out some type of warm jacket or some gloves for my kids. The other thing that I mentioned in that list that's a must is some type of comfortable day bag. I mean, you'll be putting on and taking off those layers like it's your full-time job. So you want somewhere to store them. Now let's talk about footwear. This might be the most important part of your Banff packing list because you're going to be on your feet a lot. What I always recommend is some type of waterproof hiking boot or shoe, and especially in the spring or fall, that waterproofness is super important. It doesn't even need to be a hardcore hiking boot unless you're doing a significant amount of hiking to higher elevations. But even just a trail runner or a hiking shoe with some grip and that's waterproof is ideal. You never know when the trails are going to be wet and muddy. And then I would also pack some type of sneakers or walking shoes. Those are good for town or for the paved trails, or if you plan on staying on the paved trails. And it's also really nice to have a pair of shoes to switch into after a hike. Optional, you might want to throw in some sandals for days at the lake. If you have a really nice warm day, it's nice to throw on a pair of sandals or even as a second pair of shoes in the evening. For April and May and October and November, I always recommend micro spikes, but just know if you don't have them, you can always rent them here, but you're going to want those for those icy trails. Of course, you want to make sure to break in your hiking shoes and pack some good hiking socks. The last thing you want is a bunch of blisters ruining your trip. Depending on what you're doing during your trip, you might also want to add a few of these things to your packing list. So for hiking, trekking poles, maybe a trail map, an app like All Trails. We've talked about bear spray, but you'll probably get that here if you're not from Canada, and lots of snacks. If you're planning on doing any paddling or canoeing, maybe you want a dry bag or a waterproof case for your phone, maybe some quick dry shorts, or even some sandals. If you're going to do a lot of biking, padded shorts are good, some cycling gloves. You may want gloves, especially on those cool mornings, and some type of hydration pack. If you're a photographer, you already know what to pack, but you want to have a tripod, some extra batteries, a lens cloth, all of those things that you need. And then for those kids, it never hurts. An extra pair of clothes, some mitts or gloves, lots of snacks. Don't forget those Band-Aids, and even a bonus layer for everyone. All right, so let's get to the specifics, the seasonal packing breakdown. So if we're talking about summer, June to August, you definitely want to have some t-shirts and some shorts, maybe a long sleeve shirt for sun protection. Throw in your swimsuit and some sandals. You still need a rain jacket, a hat, sunscreen, bug spray, all of those kinds of things. Specifically for June, but also for the summer, I'd make sure to have some type of warmth layer. That's going to be important. Gloves and a toque, as I mentioned. And you know what? Even those convertible zip-off pants, this is the perfect time to pull those out. I know everybody always says that those make you look like such a tourist, but this is the perfect place to bring those out. You can have shorts in the afternoon, pants in the morning. They're really quite perfect. And plus, they're usually quick dry, so if you get them a little bit muddy, you can give them a quick wipe off or give them a quick rinse in your hotel room and hang them to dry. As we get into fall, September to, kind of mid-October, a warm puffy jacket is going to be really nice for those mornings or evenings. Again, gloves and a toque, some waterproof hiking boots or shoes, and a rain jacket. You're going to hear me say that rain jacket over and over. You just never know, and you don't want to risk not being able to go out because you're unprepared. As we get into winter, so November through to March, obviously you're going to want some warm snow boots, some thermal base layers, insulated jacket, and snow pants. You're going to want a set of extra warm mitts and a warmer toque, some good warm socks, and even some hand warmers. Micro spikes also work then. Again, we'll just rent those here. As we get into spring, so we're already through that, April and May, but even into early June, it's kind of similar to October, November, a little bit of a warmer jacket, some warmer gloves, and a toque. Now that we're approaching June, those gloves can just be something light just to keep your hands a little bit warmer, and your toque can obviously be a little bit lighter as well, as just to add a little bit extra warmth. I know I've said it over and over, but the weather is unpredictable, and you've only got so much time here. You want to be prepared to get outside regardless of the weather. Now, I know most people plan to come here in the summer. That is peak season here. So let's give a real life example of what I'd pack for 3 days in July. Let's say I'm visiting Banff early July. I would pack 2 pairs of hiking pants or leggings. I'd pack at least 1 pair of shorts. I'd throw in a warm fleece, a rain shell or rain jacket of some type. I'd throw in some t-shirts, a swimsuit. I would save a little bit of space for a very light toque and some gloves. Even if you're going cycling in the morning, sometimes your hands can get really cold, so having some type of light glove is really worth having. I would throw in my hiking shoes or boots, while I would probably wear those on the airplane because I would travel with carry-on for 3 days. And then also throw in a pair of casual sneakers, something that you can change into for dinner or just walking around town. A day pack is super important. You want something to hold your extra layers, your snacks, your hat, your sunscreen, your water, your sunglasses. And then, depending on if you're doing any sunrises or sunsets, a headlamp, a power bank, because you're going to be taking a million pictures and you want to make sure that your battery doesn't get too low. And, having all trails on your phone or some type of trail map is a good idea as well. This is how I would keep it minimal and still be prepared. Again, there's a very good chance you won't need a packable down jacket or that super warm fleece, and I hope that's the case, but throwing in an extra warm layer and something that you can layer underneath your rain jacket, you'll be glad you have it just in case. All right, so just a few final tips on packing. You can really leave your fancy clothes at home. Jeans and a shirt are perfectly fine for dinner. I do always get that question. Unless you're planning a special occasion out, absolutely will still be fitting, depending on the restaurant you go to dress up a little, but just know that it's not necessary. Jeans and a shirt, you'll fit in just fine. Don't forget to pack those layers and have layers that all work together so you can wear them all together or take them off as you need to. I'm going to link my winter packing list and also my hiking packing list in the show notes to give you just a little bit more information on all of this. I hope that answered all your questions about packing. If you still have more specific questions about what you should pack or what you should leave behind, you can always go to banfftravelplanning.com/podcast and throw in any questions you have in there. I always do ask for any listener questions as well, so feel free to ask me anything through that form. Today's listener question is, what should we do when it rains? What are the best rainy day activities? Well, now that you've come prepared because you listened to this podcast and you know what you should have packed, you can still get out and enjoy the day. And that is the thing I tell people all the time is even if it rains, unless it's a super dreary day and you really want to do something inside, I would still plan to get out. As unpredictable as the mountain weather is, it can also clear up as you're not expecting it. You can leave Canmore in the morning with it looking like a gloomy, dreary day and get to Lake Louise and have those clouds part and have a wonderful day. So you really never know what to expect. If it really does look like it's going to be one of those socked in days, then you could also choose a hike that doesn't depend on the view, like Johnston Canyon, keeping in mind that it's probably going to be a little quieter on a day like that as well. Now, if you wake up to a rainy day in Banff or Canmore and you really have spent a lot of time outside and you're happy to just do something else, there are other things that you can do. So it's a great time to check out a place like the Cave and Basin or local museums. You can go soak in the Banff Upper Hot Springs. You can explore some of the galleries and shops in town, grab a coffee at a cozy cafe, take a self-guided walk through the Banff Springs Hotel, or treat yourself to afternoon tea there if you can snag a reservation, or even at Chateau Lake Louise. If you're feeling adventurous, you can lean into the weather. You could go whitewater rafting or canyoning. I mean, you're going to get wet anyways. And honestly, some of our favorite travel memories always end up being those days that weren't perfect, or something that happened on a rainy day and we just rolled with it. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Banff Travel Podcast. If you found it helpful, I'd love if you hit subscribe and left a quick review. It really helps other travelers find the show. If you have a question you'd like me to answer on a future episode, head to banfftravelplanning.com/podcast and send it in. You can find more planning tips, tools, and free resources on both of my sites, travelbanffcanada.com and banfftravelplanning.com. Until next time, happy trip planning, and I'll see you out on the trails.